I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on this edition of the Storytellers is a friend of mine that I have so much respect for. He is one of the most beloved figures in Nashville. People just really gravitate towards him. He's an encourager. I remember when he got brought to me was when we were doing I Can Only Imagine, and Bart Miller brought this guy in and said, "You've got to meet him." And then he was involved in all these ideas of how to launch the movie, and his organization was very integral in the process. So, but his storyteller job was fueled by an obsession for skating. And ice skating, to be specific. He is a gold medalist, and he's an announcer for ice skating. He's been a professional skater the majority of his life. He's one of the more iconic people in the sport. This guy, I'm so excited to have on the show. Would you please welcome Scott Hamilton? We have one of my heroes, a legend.
Oh, come on.
Scott
You're the
Hamilton.
legend. My goodness. I haven't done anything in about 40 years. You've been doing stuff every year. You've been changing our world for the better and forever.
If you go too long in between like announcing and stuff, do you Jones for like the cameras and the lights and like all that? Or do you just put up with that for the ice skating?
All I cared about was standing center ice and skating my heart out and tour. I loved it. It was so much fun. And some nights were better than others. And then I got the broadcasting gig, and that was really fun. Like I always thought it would be something to do when I was done skating, and then it was all happening simultaneously, so it was kind of hard to manage.
Yeah.
And then, I got to like Olympics number 7, and it was like, okay, I think I think
the TV thing is good.
I'm gonna probably be transitioning out of here pretty soon because people get, they new is new, and so. Yeah, so last couple Olympics, I've been doing sort of the pregame show thing, and I've loved it. And I love everything I do, so it's no big deal. But it's just sort of like the way life has been for me. It's kind of like whatever. I'm happy to kind of step into the next and see what happens. And yeah, do I miss skating? Yeah, I miss being 25 too. That
true.
ship has sailed. So but it's like a friend of mine, he's really awesome. He does a lot of high school ministry. And we got done playing golf one day, and I was telling him, it's like, oh man, I just keep looking back. And he goes, no. He put both of his fingers in front of me. He goes, we're going this way.
Oh, that's cool.
And then another dear friend of mine, like within a week after that, said there's no future in the past. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep going forward. Now we're going forward. We're not going back. Yeah. So my mantra has been for a long time, which all goes hand in hand with that. And you're welcome to this. Anybody is welcome to use this as their mantra. Yeah. Nostalgia is expensive.
Huh. That is so profound.
No, it's so true.
It is true.
Like my parents, my sister learned how to drive in this 3-speed, it's like 3 in a tree type of thing, this car. And my dad said, yeah, it was fun to get that car, but I can't, we're just going to run into the ground, and then we're just going to take it to the dump. That car was a 65 Mustang.
Wow.
He had no idea.
He had no clue.
No clue.
No clue.
So that car would be worth about $75,000 now.
That's
he just
incredible.
drove it into the ground.
Drove it to the ground.
We all learned how to drive stick, and that it was funny. But, it's just, again, it's just, nostalgia. Just think about that for a second. Nostalgia is expensive because it's robbing you of this moment right now.
Well, you do that so well because that's something I've always, when I first met you, like I just instantly was like, I adore that man, and I think you're the most well-connected person that I know because everybody you mentioned Scott Hamilton and they light up and they're like, oh, I love that man.
Oh, thank you.
What is it about you that keeps you so present? Because you like whoever you're with, that's who you're with, and there's a lot of people that try to do that, but for you, it's just like breathing. It seems like. Where does that come from for you, like that presence?
I don't know. That's the way the Lord wired me.
Were you always like that?
No, I was. It's like if they were ever to sort of diagnose ADHD, not even ADHD, just I was a hyperactive kid. Those little harnesses they put on kids with a leash. You know, it saved my life on 2 separate occasions, you know,
Wow.
so I was wild. But no, I think it's I don't know. It's just, I've really had this extraordinary kind of life experience where I just, you know, I've just been exposed to really cool stuff, and I'm just so grateful for that. And it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. Like none of it. It makes it's like, you know, the fact that I would ever even think of competing in an Olympic Games ever, like for where I grew up, skating community, which didn't exist.
Right.
There was no real coaching. There was no real pedigree. There was no nothing. It was just, they built a rink to have a hockey team and some classes for the university students. And then every week they'd open it up for, you know, the city kids to skate in it. And so I started skating there, and I just became a skater. Right. So, and from that, you know, has come all this incredible stuff. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because of anyone I've ever known that has competed at a high level in skating, I'm the least likely to have ever experienced any of it. And yet I had a great run, and I got to tour for 20 years as a professional. And it just, again, I look back on that and it's like, this is crazy. Like, how did that happen? It doesn't make any sense.
It's amazing when you have those life experiences that you have no clue how it's like shaping like your future. Because like for John and I, starting as filmmakers, my brother and I, like, there was nothing on paper that said these 2 kids from Alabama that just had a camera hobby that it would turn into making, you know, motion pictures. Except my brother, who, you know, probably had some sort of master plan behind it all. But, you know, for you, like, you were adopted, and then you just kind of stumbled into an ice skating rink and enjoyed it. Who was the first person that recognized potential in you? Who was the first person that called it out of you?
You never know, really. There was the coaches that they came in when the university opened the rink. They were old ice show people, you know, from Holiday Ice in Europe and different ice shows. And I remember her vividly. Her name was Rita Lowry, and her husband David Lowry, and they had a son Scott who was my age, and then a daughter who was a little bit younger. And I got to learn to skate, and I just, you know, I picked it up quick, and they just said, you know, I think he needs to start getting into private lessons. And, you know, it's that whole recruiting thing that happens out of Learn to Skate. And so I just, out of Learn to Skate, I became a figure skater. And I just, because I was so sick as a child and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, I was in hospitals most of the time.
Wow.
You know, and then in and out, and I was in school some, and then, you know, I'd go back to that, you know. And then I started skating, and then all of a sudden I got physically better. And so it was so miraculous, and the change was so drastic. I think it was a combination of a lot of things. One of it was, I think the biggest part of it was when I realized after several weeks that I could skate as well as the best athletes in my grade. And I was always the last one chosen for any sport, because I was always the smallest one, always the weakest one, always the ist one, right?
Wow.
So now all of a sudden it was like, ooh, I'm on equal ground with everybody. And I think that first taste of self-esteem, you know, just that first feeling that, wow, I can be good at something. I could be competitive in something. I can actually do something as well as the well kids, as well as the, you know, athletes in my grade. And so I just wanted to be at the rink all the time. And so in that, my physicality improved, my fitness improved. I started getting stronger, and all the symptoms that I'd suffered for 4 years just started like melting away.
Wow. For like a kid, what did that feel like when you kind of tapped into like this unknown superpower? Like,
no, I just love skating. I mean, I love the speed. I love the, you know, the daredevil jumping stuff. I loved, you know, the community there. I just loved, you know, the fact that everybody was there doing something, and I get to learn from the older skaters. And it was really funny that Scott Lowry, my coach's son, there was always this one skater in the rink he was a single skater and a pair skater. And he was like, you know, I don't know how much older he was than us, but he was like, you know, older, you know, kind of established. And we'd always kind of fight for attention, right? We'd always say, hey, Jimmy, will you look at my Lutz jump? Will you help me with my jump? Yeah, he was really like, oh no, Jimmy, look at mine. You know, we're always like fighting for Jimmy's attention, right? So it's really a funny story that So the Lowrys decided that they were going to move, and they moved to Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, Jimmy went with the coaches, and Scott went with his parents. And over time, Jimmy and Scott got to be really close, and they started a company together. And they sold it. Jimmy had brain cancer, and it ended up taking his life. But
Wow.
before he died, they sold their little company, Buffalo Wild Wings.
Wow. Little company.
It's like,
little company.
I should have gone to Buffalo.
You could have.
No, but the company that bought it obviously blew it up into something much, much larger. But it was just funny that I saw Scott years ago. I'd hold a cancer benefit in Cleveland, and he was on the dance floor, and I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I came to the show. I'm a donor. It's like fantastic. Full circle. And so I don't know. It's funny that, the longer I stick around, the smaller the world gets, you know.
For you, was there, you talk about Jimmy, the people that kind of inspire you. Was there one particular person that either inspired or pushed you in your journey that was like larger than life for you? That, like, so for me, back before all of the filmmaking, I was a cameraman for ESPN. And there was this camera guy named Tim too, and he still is a Monday Night Football cameraman. He's a legend.
Love those guys.
He's in his 60s now. But Tim was he was legendary when I came in, and a lot of those guys wouldn't share information. But Tim was always just really quick to teach, and so I would always shadow wherever he was after the game was over, and I just would think up of one or two questions and be like, "How'd you do this? How'd you do that?" And when I finally kind of got put on that crew full time, he was the one who was like, "Hey kid, you're one of us." That moment was so validating for me, where I was like, nobody else really knows who that is, but I knew who that was. That was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Who was the big deal for you in your journey? Was there one, or did you push yourself?
No, there was, so the way that skating is set up, back then it was 9 regions, right? So I was in the Eastern Great Lakes region. So the 3 regions in the Midwest would qualify. If you're top 3 in the region, you go to the section.
Yeah.
There were 3 sections. There was Pacific Coast, Midwest, and East Coast. So if you top 3 at the section, then you go to the nationals, right? So one year I came in 3rd in the figures, and I came in 3rd in the freestyle, and ended up 4th overall. It's figure skating. So it's like, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was then that my parents decided that, I needed to elevate my training. And so I was 13, and I went to skate that summer at this place called the Wagon Wheel in Rockton, Illinois. And Janet Lynn was skating there, who was amazing. She was probably at that time the most popular woman athlete in the world. Figure skater, devout Christian. Everybody in the rink wanted to be like Janet. And there were her coach was Slavka Kahoot, who was married to Dick Button, had 2 children with Dick, and like all this stuff was happening where I'm seeing all these phenomenal skaters. And there was the guy who that year would become the senior men's champion, the championship men's champion, this guy, Gordy McKellen. And I'd watch Gordy because kind of Gordy was the cool guy, right? He was the cool kid in the rink. He had this rally sport Camaro that he'd drive around, and he'd show up at a pool party, and they'd change the music over to Neil Diamond because he liked Neil Diamond. And everybody wanted it. All the girls would fix their hair when Gordy came in. I was like, man, I'd like to be like that someday, right? And every time Gordy took the ice, his dad was an ice show comedian. His mom was in the ice show as well. And every time he took the ice, he was the most captivating performer I'd ever seen. Oh. He could skate to anything and bring the house down. He was just charismatic, and he was funny, and he could skate to a ballad, and just everybody would cry, and he'd skate to something comedic, and everybody would be bursting out laughing. He was the best show skater I ever saw. So he sort of became my big brother as I was skating away from home. And I'd watch all these skaters, have good days and bad days. I watched how they train, where their fears were, and where their confidences, were. And Gordy just sort of became like, he was the guy. If I could be like anybody, I'd want to be like him, So as I, came up through the ranks, he won 3 consecutive championships, and then stepped away to become a coach and a show skater, just the year of the Olympics in 1976. And that year, I'd been last place guy, next to last place guy. And then for whatever reason that year, I won junior nationals because it must have been humiliating to the rest of the field, but it would be that, right? And so Gordy was always kind of there. And to this day, we were in touch all the time, and he got out of skating completely. And he just, he led this really, amazing, odd, complicated, just interesting life. Right. And so, for me, it was all skating. He went on to other things, but growing up, it was just like, I just tried to pay attention to what was going on around me. And it was about the time that, I won junior nationals. So there's a little bit of expectation. My parents ran out of money. A sponsor came up. It was a couple in Chicago that were very wealthy, didn't have children, loved skating, and just didn't want to see me lose my skating dream because of my parents had run out of money. And so they became like another set of parents to me. And I got through that next year, which was, it's called the trifecta. I turned 18. I was sponsored fully, and I got my own apartment for the very first time.
There's a recipe right there.
No, it's the trifecta.
It's the trifecta.
They all work together for no good, right?
No,
They're no good at all. And so I was distracted. I was out of shape. I was thinking about all the wrong things. I was this lost 18-year-old kid. And I went to the nationals that year. I don't even know how I made it. Senior level. My coach now, because of the sponsorship, I went to a coach who in 1976, coached a girl named, let me think of her name. It's on the tip of my tongue, Dorothy Hamill, to an Olympic gold medal, right?
Never heard of her.
So I won the lottery, and I'm now taking from this coach, and I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm taking it all in, and it's a lot. And I was, friends away from the ice, and we were doing other things, and it was just like, I was just so distracted. And it was the first year on the senior level, I was fifth in the figures, which was ridiculous and just stupid because I wasn't that good in figures, but somehow that day I was. And I dropped all the way to ninth because I was completely without focus or without any sort of capacity to step into that position.
Yeah.
I was a stupid kid. And that was the end of January in 77. And then in the middle of May, my mom succumbed to cancer. And it was that morning that everything changed. I just woke up and I was like, this isn't good. She sacrificed everything for me, and I'm an idiot, and I'm a loser. And I've never had the capacity to just do things properly. It's just, I was always kind of unfocused and just reactive and not like this guy that just took the ice. I never just took the ice. I was, except for 76 junior nationals, where I was really in good shape because my coach at that time scared me to death. But it was that. It was just like all the planets lined up for that championship in 76, which opened the door to a sponsorship, and it relieved my parents' financial problems. But without my mom, our family was just like devastated because she was the kind of the center and the glue of the family. And so in that walk in the backyard, I just decided that I was going to honor her in every possible way I could.
Wow.
And I was still a knucklehead. I was still a 19-year-old.
Sure.
Now I turned 19 at the end of that summer. But my ambition and my desire to rise above that loss was so powerful that another gear kicked in, and all of a sudden now I'm third at the nationals. I'm on the podium in this championship men, and I'm ranked 11th in the world in one decision to honor my mom. And then the next year, some weird things happened, and I tore every ligament in my right ankle in May, and it took me a while to catch up. And by the time I got to nationals, I was in pretty good shape, but I lost momentum, and I ended up coming in fourth. Was I fourth at nationals, or I think I was fourth that year. Yeah, I was fourth that year, so I didn't make it to the Worlds. And I talked to my coach, and I just said, it seems like maybe you're not as interested in me as you once were. And I've talked to my sponsors, and they said that if I if you didn't really want to coach me anymore, that I could go to Philadelphia and take from this other coach. And he said, well, that other coach is a really good friend of mine. And if you wanted to go, I mean, I wouldn't try to hurt you politically, and that's your decision. And then, I mean, I understand. He never said stay.
Yeah.
Not once. And so I went to this kind of great coach who never had anybody compete at that level, really. And we made it to the Olympics that year, 1980. And I thought if I came in 8th, it'd be great. I came in 5th. And then I went to the Worlds a month later, came in 5th again. And then the top 3 guys retired.
Wow.
So all I had to do was wake up and I'm 2nd in the world. And then I go, what do I have to do to be 1st? And I had to be good at compulsory figures. And I was like, oh man, come on. So I just put my head down and got to work. And from October of 1980 until March of 84, I never lost a competition.
Man.
And it was remarkable that this kid that came in last all the time, that was unfocused and undisciplined and all the uns, I just didn't have it. I may have had some natural ability, but I didn't know how to channel it. I didn't know what to do with it. And my parents sacrificed everything because it was the only thing that I was in hospitals for 4 years. It was the only thing that made me well. And so they just put everything into that, And, as an adopted kid, I mean, it was extraordinary that they would give everything to, that child. But after winning an Olympic gold medal and the 4th world championship, it was time to turn professional. And then my role models were no longer skaters. They were musicians.
That fills in some blanks for me, because you have such a connected world to musicians.
Yeah.
I
love music. Everybody does. But it was my best friend in all those years of training. And
really?
It was my best friend on the road when I'd just be waiting to do a show. I'd just listen to music. And I loved so many genres of music. I loved so many eras of music. I just loved music. And so when I turned pro, I thought I'm just going to step in and just be, a skater, right? Try to learn things, try to be, what Gordy McKellen was, be the great show skater and have everybody palm my hand, be funny, be,
right.
All the stuff that Gordy, showed me what to do. And then it was going into, I guess, my second year. No, it was after my second year of Ice Capades that they let me go. They the new owner only wanted women skaters, didn't want any male skaters, So I always joke that sexual discrimination in the workplace is alive and well. It's like, in America. But I had to figure out what was next. And so I was at that time I was pretty good friends with these guys in a band called Jack Mack and the Heart Attack. I just love those guys. And I had a barbecue and they all came over. And another one of my dearest friends was a guy named Dennis St. John. He was, for many, many years, he was Neil Diamond's drummer. And I got to know the whole band, Neil Diamond's band and Neil. And I invited this choreographer over. Her name was Sarah Kawahara. And at that barbecue, she just looked at me and she goes, Can I be honest with you? And I go, of course. She goes, you need to turn professional. And I go, I've been professional for 2 years. And she goes, no, you've been skating professionally for 2 years. You need to become professional. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. She goes, you need to step away from your competitive career and you need to use all of your talents and abilities to be something else. And not that.
Wow.
And it's like, well, then you're going to have to show me how to do that. She said, okay. And so we started working together that summer and she changed everything. Like all of a sudden now music came alive to me in a different way. And I could do this rhythm and that era and I could do this. And I skated everything. I skated everything. I skated to opera. I skated if it was rooted in the classics, it was a comedy always.
Yeah.
But I had opera comedy. I did ballet comedy. I did all these comedic things. I did fun things, sentimental things, more dynamic things. The first program we did was David Sanborn, a song called Flight.
Yeah.
And it was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I thought I was going to die every single time I did it. But she made me a better skater every year. So starting in like 1986, the fall of 1986, I was given an opportunity after I lost my job with Ice Capades to start a show called Stars on Ice. And so my calendar was pretty empty, so I said, okay, let's do this. And I ended up touring with them as a full cast member for 15 years.
Wow.
And the stuff I got to explore just musically was just spectacular. And it was really wild that I did like 9 Disney specials. I did this thing with Target, the Snowden thing. And I got to do all these amazing just shows and opportunities and pro competitions. And I learned how to be unique. And it was going back to music. It was my role models were, I wanted to build an audience over time. So that was Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
I'm gonna throw down every night 100%. More, I'm gonna throw down hard every night, earn everybody's respect. Second one was I really wanted to show the love and the joy of my skating, and that was Neil Diamond. If you've ever been to a Neil Diamond show, has there ever been a happier man on stage?
Yep.
No, he was a phenomenal entertainer. And then the third one was Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin, because as a solo artist, he decided that he was just going to always change, always evolve, always become something next, always become a different rhythm, a different presentation. He was going to just use his voice in different ways that just allowed for versatility and longevity. And I just idolized that. I just thought that was so brave, and I just wanted to be like that.
Dude.
And so those musicians, they put me into a professional career, and we had so much fun. I had this costume designer named Jeff Billings who worked with Bob Mackie back in the day, and he'd come up with these outrageous ideas that would marry the music and the movement to a look where we were able to do outrageous things. And in that, I was able to build a professional career, one that I never, ever anticipated.
That's amazing. I think that the relationship between the music and the story that you're telling, I think, is universal, like to any storyteller.
Well, I mean, anybody that's told stories about music more than you, I don't know anyone. You're the guy in the room. I don't know anyone.
It's my crutch. It's for my music video days. But for me, regardless of if it's a music movie or not, I always have to find a piece of music that grounds me to the story. And I'll find a piece of music and I'll be like, it's that. Yeah. We're doing that. And, when it's a movie like I Can Only Imagine, it's already kind of rooted in the story. But when, like, with American Underdog, there was a song by, not a super well-known artist, but I had heard the song, and I'm like, that's the end of our movie. So we designed the whole end of the movie around this little Josh Ritter song, and kind of edited it even before we got on set. Yeah. And so it just kind of, you got to hear the rhythm before you know the steps of the dance. So for you, like, you'd hear a piece of music, then that would be like,
you could the one that pops up.
Which one?
So 1997, I was, 1977, I lost my mom. And there was a movie that came out later that year called A Star Is Born. Mm-hmm. And there was when Chris Christopherson,
Barbra Streisand,
when he commits suicide in the desert and she has to come out and perform in that concert, she sings his song with One More Look at You, but she turns it into this gigantic ballad. And I always, when I heard that, it touched my heart in a way that if I could just have one more look with my mom, just one more time with her, what would I say, and how would I thank her, for all the sacrifices, for teaching me so much, for just being my mom, with one more look, right? And it just always stuck with me. So 97, 20 years later, I'm diagnosed with cancer. And I'm given, and she had no chance because there was nothing for her. So I became a fundraiser, right?
Yeah.
20 years later, I'm at the Cleveland Clinic and they're telling me that there's an 80-90% chance that I'm going to be 100% at the end of this treatment cycle. And it was like, what? And we had 2 guys in Indiana figured it out. Oh, I'm going to be okay. And she had no chance, and I'm going to be okay. So in that adventure, I became an activist, right? Where I'm just going, we're just going to fund research and we're going to save lives. And if she didn't have a chance and I did, we got to do that for more people, right? So I became my CARES, Cancer Alliance for Research, Education, and Survivorship. But in that, I had to come back from my cancer. And it was on my heart the whole time, I got to come back to cancer. I got to come back to cancer. So I reached out to a friend of mine. His name is Gary Morris, a country singer. Did Jean Valjean on Broadway. I mean, most talented guy, most versatile voice, incredible power. And
if you can go from country to Bring Him Home.
Oh, yeah. It's like effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, you're good.
Let me just switch guitars.
Yes, exactly.
But Gary, I reached out to him. I said, I want to come back, but I want you to be at my comeback night. Because we're doing a special for CBS television. And he goes, yeah, I got some ideas. Can I send them to you? And I go, first, I want you to listen to this song and see if you can recreate it. And so he goes, what is it? And I go, song called With One More Look at You. Man, I can't tell the story. So the whole idea was all I wanted, because maybe I was taking it for granted, was just one more look at the audience. I built a long relationship with this audience. I could just have 13 years plus, right? Just one more look at this audience. Just be standardized one more time. And I was going to work towards it. So after 38 staple surgery, got back on the ice when I was allowed to. And Gary, in the meantime, listened to the song, and he called me, and I go, what do you think? And he goes, I don't know what kind of audience this is. He goes, I can sing that out of that song. I go, okay, you good with it? He goes, I'm good with it. He goes, I'm get to work on it right away. And so he sent me the tape. It was a tape back then. He sent me a tape, and he goes, listen to it, and then call me after you listen to it. And so I listened to it, and it was more than I ever dreamed it could be. It was so articulate and so beautiful, and it just had everything, every depth, every nuance, every emotion. It had everything in it, and I just bawled because I knew this was a song that this was going to be my inspiration to get back 100%. And so I called Gary and I said, I love it. I love everything about it. Thank you. And he said, oh, I knew he had something when I got done singing the vocal, and I came back in the main room,
in the
engineering room. And he said, everyone was bawling. He goes, I knew it was right.
Wow.
And so, that was it. I got to honor the journey. I got to honor survivorship. I got to honor the loss of my mom. I got to honor the audience by using a piece of music that I held on to for 20 years.
Man, for you, in the complicated relationship you've had with cancer, it just seems like most people, have at least one point of impact at some point in their life with either somebody they know or themselves personally. But you've been touched by it multiple times. How have you seen how did you really find your purpose with what you do as Scott Cares? Like, where did that become your fire? Like, because there's a lot of celebrities and people that they'll have a foundation or a charity, but very few times do you meet somebody like a Gary Sinise that their foundation is an obsession.
He's awesome.
And so, like, with Scott Cares, like, that is something that has become a big part of your identity.
Yeah, no, it's my why, in so many respects. It's why I get up in the morning. It's why I breathe in and breathe out. But again, I'm just one piece of this big machine, which is not a big machine. It's a small machine with big impact, right? So when I lost my mom, I became a fundraiser, and we'd raise money wherever we could, however we could. We started doing these shows in Bowling Green. There were $5 tickets, I think, and we'd raise like, $20,000 for, cancer research, and we'd invest it, and it would be great. It was like, this is really cool. We got to do this more. So in 1984, I win the Olympic gold medal, and we're at the Holiday Inn in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. And I say at the bar in this hotel is Rune Arledge and Eric Heiden, right? They're talking to each other. Eric was doing the commentary and for the speed skating because he just won every medal you could win 4 years before in Lake Placid. And I went up to Rune and he said, "Congratulations, our newest Olympic gold medalist." And I go, "Oh, thanks, but he's won a lot more than I have." But I just had just two words. And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Bowling Green." And he goes, "Bowling Green?" He goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's my hometown. I'm going to do a show there to raise money for cancer research, and it's going to be my last amateur performance. And I would love, I'd love to have it covered in some way, shape, or form." He goes, "That's something." So right then, Peter Carruthers came up. He and his sister won a silver medal at that Olympics. And he said, "Hey, Mr. Arledge." And he goes, "Oh, hi, Peter. Congratulations." And he goes, "2 words." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Bowling Green." So then we went up to Dick Button and we did the same thing. And then Dick go up to Rune and say, "Hey, Rune." And he goes, "Yeah, Dick, what's up?" And he goes, "Bowling Green." So they came to Bowling Green. Dick Button's sitting in the hockey box, watching the show because they're going to voice it over later. They shot the whole thing. And I got to share my Olympic gold medal with my hometown in a really cool way. And we ended up raising $75,000 for cancer research. And then a month later, I'm in Denver doing my first professional show, but I didn't get paid. Because I was so pure at that point, right? That I'm going to do my last amateur performance. It's going to be a benefit.
Right.
Not going to take any money. And then my first professional show is I'm going to do it without a sanction from the U.S. figure skating, so I lose my amateur status.
Yeah.
I'm not taking any money, right? So we ended up raising $250,000 for cancer research at that event. And then the next morning, I signed my Escapades contract. Wow. So it was really clean, right? But in all of that, it's like I was a fundraiser. And then I go through cancer. And I realized...
So you were a fundraiser before you went through cancer?
Yes. I was raising money from 1977 to 1984. 17 years of fundraising wherever I could, however I could, wherever I could. And then all the way through 84 to 97, right? So I'm diagnosed with cancer, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, I get to live? That doesn't seem fair to me. Wow. And so I did the chemo thing, and I learned a lot. And I realized in the chemo thing that a lot of people like me were flying blind, and they didn't have the information they needed. And I asked the doctor, how sick am I going to be with chemo? And he said, moderate to severe. And I realized I was flying blind because I didn't really know what chemo was. Right. And then B, I didn't know how to endure it. And so it was kind of those 2 note to self moments. So that after my survivorship was really cemented, as publicly with all going back to the tour and doing all these things, I just said to Cleveland, I said, I want to give back. I want to start something that's going to help patients endure this thing better than they ever have. And they had a patient resource center, but it was very small. And they go, "What do you want to do?" I go, "What do you think of the name Fourth Angel?" And he said, "Sounds cool. What is it?" And I go, "Well, your first angel is your oncologist. Your second angel is your oncology nurse. Your third angel is your friends and family. What's missing is a fourth angel." And they go, "Who is that?" And I go, "It's somebody who's been there, done that." Wow. So now you get to be mentored by somebody who was where you are and is now on the other side, and they work as a role model and a source of invaluable information, right? How sick did you get? Well, here's how I felt, and here's how I dealt with it, right? Unbelievable. So now, Fourth Angel, they do 100 pairings a month. Man. And they're just on fire. It's just big. It's still at the Cleveland Clinic. The next thing was information. I didn't know what chemo was. I thought it was, you get put into a room and they replace all your bodily fluids. I didn't know it was just a chemical bag of therapy, right? And I didn't really know anything else about it except that I just was going to be a great patient, right? So I was the organ grinder's monkey for 5 years, raising money to build a website called chemocare.com.
Wow.
And chemocare.com. So a lot of people, when they first get diagnosed, they go to Dr. Google.
Yeah, Dr. Google.
So I went to Dr. Google, and this was at the beginning of the internet,
That
right?
could be dangerous.
And Dr. Google gave me 12-syllable words, sometimes 3 to a sentence.
That's
and I'm
funny.
like, okay, I'm too dumb to be sick. That's not fair.
Yeah.
So we decided to build this website that was everything you need to know about chemotherapy, how it's administered, every single drug listed,
Wow.
what they're designed to do, how they work, and then all the side effects that are attached to it. There's a link at the bottom where you can link to those side effects page where they can teach you how to get in front of or deal with the side effects, right? So now people aren't flying blind anymore because it was all in 8th grade English and Spanish,
Man.
right? And now with Google Translate, it's any language you want to put it in, you know? So we thought if we got 3 million hits in a year, we'd be really a huge success. I haven't checked it in years, but last I checked was probably, I don't know, 3 million hits a month, brand new users, you know, so it's a big success, right?
Man.
Now I'm all research, right? All research. And in that, we built CARES at the Cleveland Clinic, and we got well into, we raised tens of millions of dollars through Sam and Maria Miller. And Maria Miller became like a wonderful mom to me, and I just love her to death. And Sam was an incredibly generous leader in the community, and a very wealthy man that just really poured into everyone around it. And with Maria's heart and her ability to, shake people upside down by the ankles, we were able, and she lost so many members of her family to cancer that we partnered on this big music and skating event. And we had so many iconic musicians come through this thing. I remember we had Aretha Franklin one year.
Man.
She loved skating, by the way. She was a huge skating fan. And then another year we had Liza Minnelli and Michael Feinstein.
Wow.
And then another year we had, I invited Three Dog Night. And it goes, Three Dog Night? Why Three Dog Night? I go, wait for it. And sure enough, they did a 15-song set.
Oh, man.
And I think every single song was a #1 hit.
Wow.
Everybody in the audience knew every word to every one of those songs.
That's awesome.
And then when we got to the finale and it was Jeremiah was a bullfrog, I was like, yes. Because all I listened to growing up was Three Dog Night and James Gang. I could never get Joe Walsh to an event. And I'm still working on that because I'm a gigantic Joe Walsh fan. But it was Three Dog Night and Joe Walsh and James Gang growing up, so it was really fun to have them. And then, we had Michael McDonald, we had Peter Cetera, we had Michael Bolton, we had Cyndi Lauper, we had all these amazing, iconic artists do this show. And we raised tens of millions of dollars for cancer research in the program that we created at the Cleveland Clinic. And it got to a point where the team came and they said, okay, what's next? And I said, I want to grow. And they go, you can't really grow here anymore because there's definite rules and regulations of where and who you can accept money from if you're embedded in a healthcare organization.
Right.
And so I said, well, can I take the brand solo? And Toby Cosgrove, who was the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic at the time, he said, you've done a lot for us. Yes, you can take the brand. And so in the dedicated foundation version of CARES, the Cancer Alliance for Research, Education, and Survivorship, we become a very forward-thinking, innovative cancer research organization that just funds the promise of a better way to treat cancer, which is treat the cancer and spare the patient harm by igniting their own immune systems to recognize and destroy the cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, our bodies are doing that right now. While we speak, it's like, oh, you're a dead cell. You don't belong here. Out. Oh, you're a broken cell. You don't belong here. Out. Oh, you're a mutant cell. You don't belong here. Out. There's something about the cancer cell where we just need to teach our bodies how to detect it as something that doesn't belong there like it does the rest of the time, right? And once we do that, we've cracked the code, and now everybody can survive cancer. But there's so many forms, and each one comes with its own challenge.
Well, the thing that I love about what you do, but more importantly, who you are, is just the resource you are of just being an encourager to others. that are on a
thank you.
journey that you've been on.
Thank you.
And I can't tell you the number of friends in entertainment that I've said, hey, can you talk to this person and give them some encouragement? And whether it's a family member that's sick or they're sick, you're just a resource for connecting. And I think the thing that you have that you is your gift is you're a storyteller. And that's why I want to have you on the podcast is
Thank you.
you tell stories of hope that give hope to people that desperately need it in their story. And so I think that's something powerful about what you guys do.
Thank you.
As well. Is there are there stories that you've held on to over the years that made a particular impact on you through what you guys have experienced?
Well, it's just sort of the story of the improbable, the impossible, and then why not, right? So we all kind of go through stages of growth and development where we kind of have to come to terms with each level of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember, this is attached to you directly. I met with Bart Millard for lunch at Grey Drug downtown Franklin. Yeah. And we're sitting across the table and he's telling me about I Can Only Imagine. He's really excited about it. He goes, we've been working on this a long time and it's finally done and we're going to debut it. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because you put on, big events, because Mercy Me and Bart had done a lot of my big cancer fundraising events. And he realizes that I kind of go big. I don't, it's go big or stay home, right? So he goes,
he came back to me after the last time he did one of your shows. He's like, I got to sing with Sheryl freaking Crow. and so I think,
he's hilarious because he's so humble, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's so humble and he's so rooted in kind of like, just leading worship and just, sort of those guys, they're amazing. And Bart is just, he's just hilarious. He's so humble. And he's talking to me about, just doing like maybe a Nashville premiere and, it would be fun to do it at the Franklin Theater. And it would just be really great to, get, some of the, not only the Christian music artists, but some of the country music people and do kind of like a little red carpet thing. And he goes, what do you think? And I just looked at him and I said,
too small.
Well, and he goes, what's wrong with that? And I go, if it were me,
that's awesome.
I go, I would, if you want people to take this movie seriously, you got to go big.
Oh my God. To this moment, I did not realize that was you.
Oh yeah.
That's because he came back after you guys had a talk. He didn't say Scott Hamilton. He's like, Andy, we got to go big. I was like,
and he goes, how big? And I go, well, I know that they have a screen at the Skirmerhorn. And I think take over the Skirmerhorn and pack it out and do it above the orchestra where the orchestra would be. Mm-hmm. And I would do your premiere in a big way, ballyhoo lights, the whole thing, get everybody to come out, fill the joint, and just make it a big, big deal. And he goes, oh, that's so cool. I like that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. So he decided to do the thing at the Skirmerhorn. And I think I was in Korea.
You were. You came in hot.
Yeah, I flew in. And you guys had me do a little hosting of the, kind of the event.
I mean, the little hosting. You emceed the whole night.
Well, yeah, okay.
You came off of a plane with no sleep.
My eyes
throw yourself on the stage, and then you go right into. The only thing missing was like skates and a song. Like you did the whole thing. It was great.
It was so fun. But I mean, it's like that. It's like, we all kind of. Well, I don't know. That seems like a lot, But it really, when you just kind of put pen to paper, it's like you have a budget. Mm-hmm. Do it. Right? Just do it. And again, because it's the more you can put yourself out there in a big way, the more kind of people go, oh, this is really. And I remember, the whole cast was there that night, and it was really fun to see it, the movie, and to see it come alive with the cast members and how excited they were to be there, and it was just like that. It's like there's nothing about kind of me that makes sense, but it's almost like if you don't ask. And this is something I tell people, especially after they've gone through cancer. I go, do you realize if you don't ask your body to do something, you'll never get an answer?
Wow.
So it's like, oh, you want to be in better shape? Well, you better start asking. Oh, you want to do this? Oh, you better start asking.
Wow.
And it's like you ramp up, kind of, you don't just dive into the deep end, right? But it's that whole idea of that all of us can be sort of indescribable,
Mm-hmm.
and we can all choose to be undefeated, right?
Wow.
So the whole thing of undefeated means that nothing that comes your way is going to allow you to be defeated.
Mm.
Like, I remember, there was this moment, and it was really wild. I was last place guy. I just came in. I fell 5 times in my long program at nationals, and it was in Minneapolis. It was, I skated in front of more people I'd never seen in my life because it was Janet Lynn's last
Wow.
nationals. And so everybody wanted to be there. And so they put the little novice boys event on right before the senior ladies championship, and everybody got there early because they wanted like the seat. They wanted,
Yeah.
and I fell and fell and fell and fell, and I came in dead last. And we're at Gordy McKellen's victory party for his national championship.
Yeah.
And they had this big buffet thing, and I'm there with another kid my age who did pretty well in his event. And we're sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, go, can you go for 14-year-olds for kids? Go grab me a beer." It's like, it's right there.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I have something to lose. You don't.
Oh man.
Right?
Ouch. I'm standing right here, man.
No, it's like, okay, something tells me I'm going to remember this moment for a long time.
Man.
Because now it's like I've just been kind of labeled. But it was one of those things where I didn't use it like, it was one of those things where it's like, if that's what people think of me, I need to change that.
Huh.
Like, I don't need to just rest in that. I need to find a way to change that. And it took me a while to figure it out. But it wasn't like, okay, the next year I go out, I'm 9th again at nationals.
Yep.
But I only fell twice instead of 5 times. That's better. You know?
Well, somebody explained
last
to me
is last, right?
Somebody explained to me the difference between rage and anger.
Yeah.
And rage is rooted in fear. Anger is rooted in passion, something you want.
Yeah.
Anger pushes you past fear. You have something you want enough that you're willing to push past what you're afraid of. Sometimes people give you a gift of anger. And it's like,
and that whole idea, and it's just kind of another quote is courage is fear that said its prayers, right? Because courage is rooted out of fear as well.
Wow.
So, but it just comes down to what's the answer? What are you going to do? No, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And I've failed in possibly every way you possibly can fail as a human being. And it's like, okay, how do I deal with that? Right? I've failed in, I failed in skating. I failed in business. I failed in relationships. I failed, I've let people down, and it's, a lot of it is just sort of not intended. Sometimes it's, it's just rooted in being a clueless knucklehead. Other times it's just, you get caught up in something and you just don't realize that you're hurting people. Right. And so I got to a point where I realized that failure only has one ingredient. And it's something that I think it's important for all of us to kind of understand it, right? Failure has one ingredient and one ingredient only. Brownies, if you want to make brownies, it's like 5 ingredients, right? But failure only has one, and that's information. It's like, okay, you can't do anything but to rewind the clock and take that, prevent that thing from happening again, right? But you can learn from it and move forward. And so for a long time, I kept all of my failures in a bag and I'd carry them around with me, and I felt really terrible about the person I was and what I'd done and all these failures and hurting my mom and hurting my dad and hurting, taking my family, it's a sacrifice, and I never showed the kind of gratitude I should have. And the sponsor, and how do I thank her? And I have these people that are, how do I thank them? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And just, all these things that just kept happening. And it was really wild that I got to a point, and I think it was when I came out of the water, when I decided to dedicate my life to Jesus, when I decided that I wanted to be baptized and I wanted to be cleansed of my sin. I wanted to move forward. And, I told my pastor, my church, and we were in LA at that time, and we were going to Pepperdine Church of Christ there. And Ken Durham was our pastor, and he married my wife and I. And we had a son by then. I just, had gone through my first brain tumor. And I just wanted to dedicate my life to Christ. And he said, let's do this. So I got baptized, and I came out of the water, and everything felt different, like really different, in an unexpected way different. So I go back, put my dry clothes on. It's, Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the house to watch football. My wife and son and her best friend Carrie are going out to lunch. And she came up to the car because we drove separately. And she goes, "How do you feel?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Lighter."
Wow. Man.
Because just drop the bag.
Man.
Just drop the bag. There's no reason to carry that stuff around anymore. Not when you understand what's been done for you. You just drop the bag. Just drop it. It's done. It's over. And, again, I can't go back. But when I say the Lord's Prayer, forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who've trespassed against us. And you mean it, life takes on a different identity.
Man.
So it's just, I hope that the people I've hurt in the past forgive me. I've forgiven everyone that's ever, go get me a beer guy. Love him. Absolutely. Became dear friends. We worked together a lot. We had a great, trajectory to, doing shows together, doing all these things. And it's fine. It's great. It's like, I harbor nothing, but it's just fun to think about all those moments that are kind of like, wow, that was a big fork in the road, which way you going to go?
Dude, I love that you shared that. Like the drop the bag, that'll preach, man.
Yeah.
That's so good. Just as we kind of wrap things up, just a little fun exercise at the end. I always like to kind of bring it back to my world in movies. And you're pretty conversant in in everything artistic. A lot of your friends are actors. For you, like when it comes to winter sports movies, which one is out of all those that you feel like they got it right and is your favorite? Is there a winter sports movie that
well, I mean, Miracle.
Yeah.
It's funny because two of the guys in that team grew up. They went to college in my hometown.
Really?
Mark Wells, who just recently passed, and Kenny Morrow were both on that Olympic team. So I went to every game, and it was really fun to watch them win and beat the Russians and do all that. And then we went straight from Lake Placid to the White House, and I'm standing on the stairs of the White House waiting for President Carter to come out and do his address, and I'm standing there with Herb Brooks.
Wow.
And because, he knew I was hanging around the hockey games all the time. And I had a great Olympics. And he goes, "Can you believe this?" And I go, "No, I can't." I go, I want to meet a president of the United States today. And he goes, "No, the first time ever in Washington, D.C., I'm a guest of the president of the United States at the White House." And he was so humble about it. But then you watch the movie and you see, Kurt Russell's portrayal of this guy who was a taskmaster and just, beating these guys down. And he didn't beat them down. He didn't beat them up. He strengthened them.
Yeah.
And to the point where at the right time, they peaked perfectly at the right time. And and it was so fun that, Mike Rosione is a dear friend of mine. And we've spent a lot of time together, especially over the last few years. I've been going up to Boston a lot. And just, to think of those stories, that he tells so beautifully and so brilliantly that, and even just his story of how he never played hockey again after that Olympics.
Man.
Yeah. It's just, it's remarkable. But, Miracle was great. And of course, Blades of Glory, because it suspended all reality. All of it.
Just throw it all out the window.
There were so many great cameos.
Oh
in
my
that movie.
gosh.
It was hilarious.
Yes, that was fantastic. Anything with somebody that funny on skates is incredible.
And he had the body of a skater too. Not. Drink it in. Just drink it in.
Drink it in. That's funny. With Miracle, Mark Ciardi, one of the producers of that movie, I actually had a call with him today because
cool.
he produced American Underdog with us, and so that movie is a perfect movie. Yeah. And Blades of Glory, you can't go wrong. That's fantastic. That leads us. I mean, the only thing missing in that lineup is the Scott Hamilton story, so we got to figure that one out.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Again, where do you start? But Bart and I, last time we had lunch a couple weeks ago, he brought that up, and it was like, Bart.
we both of us are like stereo when you're in your ear, and then we'll be talking, and be like, it'd be a really good movie. We've gotten a firm no up to this point, but
You know,
the door's open. The door's
I'll
always
keep
open.
working on him to make it to your benefit concert and to redo his scheduling for his touring.
Bart has always been my good luck charm, and it was funny because even if is one of my favorite Mercy Me songs, and just the whole everything about that song.
Yeah,
it's
a powerful one.
It's so good, and we put the show together, and my executive director is doing the running order with all the songs and the skaters and everything else. And she goes, I think you made a mistake. And I go, what did I do? And she goes, I looked at the list and you don't have a skater with even if. And I go, Carrie, why would I ever do that? That's a moment that I want the entire audience to just stop.
Wow.
And just worship.
Huh.
And she goes, okay, that's why you do that part. Okay, I get it now. But it's that, it's songs, and you know this better than most because you make movies about songs, and songs, they're the soundtrack of our lives. And those songs, they'll teleport you back to a moment every single time.
Yep. And
it's amazing that I'll be driving sometime and I go, I just want to go back, and I'll just put on like 70s, because another one of my mantras is like Lyle Lovett's is one of my favorites. Lyle Lovett says his one reality, I can't remember exactly what he called it, is all women given the opportunity would rather eat outdoors. That's his, right? And mine is whatever music was popular when you were in high school, you'll probably enjoy that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And that's it. I listen to songs and it just teleports me back to a moment. And I know exactly where I was, and I know exactly what I was feeling at that time. And it's remarkable. So music has always been gigantic in my world. And just the people that I've gotten to, get to know and to share moments with, it's just my heroes. They're my heroes. And they're, the first person I ever introduced my wife as my fiance. Okay, you're going to die when I tell you this. It's crazy. We got engaged in Cleveland at my event. I proposed to her in front of 7,000 people. Right?
Good move.
And then the next day,
daring move, but good move.
Yeah. No, well, I figured, it's going to be hard for her to say no, because she won't be popular.
Gentle coercion.
Yeah. But the next day we flew to Denver because I was going to take her to a concert.
Yeah.
And we went backstage after the concert, and we're walking, and the artist is walking down the hall really tired, and he's waving at everybody as they go by. And Tracy and I are sitting off to the side, and Bruce came right up to us.
Oh my gosh.
The
Bruce
boss. Springsteen, yeah. And it was remarkable. I just said, oh yeah, Bruce is my fiance. We just got engaged last night. And he's like, oh, congratulations. It's like, how am I even like Bruce Springsteen? Really? Are you kidding? Oh, his mom would come to Stars on Ice every year.
Wow.
And she loves skating, right? And it's just all these things, these like weird, these things that just happen that are just remarkable. And it's unlikely, in so many respects, and I go back to music. It's always about music. And it's worship music. Now I listen to so much just because I just feel closer, when I'm worshiping. And again, I like almost all of us, we're all knuckleheads. We're just trying to figure it out. We're just trying to navigate this challenging, broken world. And the only chance we have is to stay as close as we possibly can to Jesus, because he's the way, the truth, and the life. And if we can do that, we're probably going to be okay. We're probably going to be okay.
Man, I adore you. And as does the majority of this town. I love your heart. I love the stories you tell. I love your why, what gets you up in the morning. I think what you're doing with Scott Cares is really important work.
Thank you.
That's changing people's lives. It's something that's worthy to get involved in. And man, any excuse to hang out with you is a good day for me. So thanks for being on the show.
Anytime. My kids are getting older and they're wanting to spend less time with me. So That time is yours if you want it.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
I want to thank Scott for being a part of the show. It's so exciting to kind of sit down and talk with him. And it's just everything about him, just all the mantras that he kind of lives his life by are like, I want to write every single one of them down and just like put them on the mirror to say each morning. But each one of them are really powerful. But the one that stuck with me is the idea of lay it down. Just that bag of all those messages and failures and everything that he carried for so long until finally he laid it down. And somebody asked him how he felt, and he said, lighter. I feel lighter. And I think, this business just has a way of building up resentments, building up, a lot of insecurities, a lot of guilt. And when we carry that all with us, it just really robs us of the joy and the purpose behind what we do. And to get to a place to be able to lay it down, whether that's, coming into finding a faith in Christ and finding out that all those failures you don't have to carry with you, or just the idea of forgiveness. This is just a business where you have to learn how to forgive over and over and over again. And I struggle with that a lot, but when I lay it down and I'm willing to just let go of it, there's a powerful exchange that happens that what I get is I get to feel lighter. And so just be encouraged today on your journey as you tell your stories, be a forgiver. So that's the show today. Thanks for being a part of this. We'll see you on the next edition of the Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey, with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey, and creative assistance from Jaron Weatherly and Beach Approach. Our executive producers are Kevin Downs and Brandon Gregory. Social media for the show is run by the Troops and Allies team, and our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Prophet. Special thanks to our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. To make sure that you never miss out on any of our exciting guests, subscribe to the Storytellers for free on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at KingdomStoryCompany.com and follow us at Kingdom Story Company across all platforms. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.